So this is September 22nd. I'm Maury Miller, and I'm interviewing Catherine Lau. And Catherine, I'm going to ask, first of all, when and where were you born?
I was born in 1921. 1921.
Okay, in Marshall or where?
Well, it was Clarksville.
Clarksville, okay. And who were your parents?
Art and Effie Berger. Burger.
Okay. And did you have brothers or sisters?
Oh, yeah. Whole house full of them.
Well, tell me about that.
Okay, I had four. Gosh, it's been so long I have to stop and count. 4 or 5 brothers.
Okay.
And one sister.
And only one sister.
Only one sister.
They had a house full of boys.
Yep, I grew up among men.
Okay, and tell me about when you were young, where you lived.
We lived south of Clarksville, across the creek.
Okay.
And when it rained, that creek flooded, something terrible. And we had to walk a log to get across it.
Boy.
Okay, well, I didn't go to school at that time, but the boys told me as soon as I went to school, they was going to throw me off that log the first day. And I was terrified of water.
Oh, I bet.
For years. Matter of fact, I was full grown on vacation in Texas when I got over that. But by the time we drove from Marshall and crossed where the 3 rivers met down, I was just in cold sweat.
Oh, still thinking of that.
Yeah, because that was a lot of water. 3 big rivers come together down there, Cairo, you know. And after I got over that, it wasn't so bad. Until years later, I had made another trip to Texas because that's where one of my brothers lived. And I told him I was going to take the causeway back. Oh, he said, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. Well, he said, if you get out there and we have a storm, you're just going to be lost. I said, well, I'm going on the causeway anyway. And we didn't have a storm, thank goodness, because I had no idea what I was talking about. I didn't know what the causeway was.
But you could see all that water around you all the time.
It looked like it was just about that far out the door.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
so you lived on a farm?
yes.
Well, tell me about the neighborhood. What was it like?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. It was all woods, snakes.
You didn't have close neighbors?
Oh, no.
No.
It was rattlesnake country.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I was raised in a territory where you had fear all the time.
Well, let's talk about growing up. As you lived on the farm, did you have chores to do?
Well, I was actually too young for much chores. Yeah,
Okay.
my dad let me claim a young calf, and I had to take care of it up until it got to where it was too big to be a calf, and then he took her away from me. Yeah. Me and one brother, we milked the cows and cleaned the stables and things like that.
Okay. Talk about playtime. What were some of your playtime activities?
Oh, beat each other on the head, probably. we didn't have play.
You didn't have play. Okay.
No, we didn't.
Well, let's talk about some family activities. What kinds of family activities? Did you go to church? What kinds of things did you do?
My mother and I went to church every Sunday, from below the creek all the way into Clarksville Baptist Church. But we was there every Sunday. We either rode horseback
Horses.
or we rode in the buggy. But we always got there.
Okay. Where did you go to school?
Where did I go to school? In Marshall. We had moved into this town part then.
How old were you when you moved into Marshall?
Oh, I must have been 5.
Very young.
Just
then.
age
Okay.
start school.
Just age to start school. Okay. And what do you remember about school?
Well, I went to the Echo School. It wasn't in the city. It was out in the country, partly. And I remember I went 3 years at that school. never had anything to study. I had a stick and a knife for 3 years. There was two families of kids that went there, and I was a first grader, and the teacher was a freshman out of college. There was 3 boys that were like seniors, and all of her attention went to the older boys.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
And so you went there for 3 years, and then where did you go?
Then we moved into town, and I went to the South Side School, and that's where I started to learn things. And it was a long time ago, because they've remodeled that school since then,
Oh, yeah.
2 or 3 times, you know. And we lived just in the south edge of town.
So when you lived in town, did you have neighbors? Did you have playmates?
We had neighbors. I had playmates. We had close neighbors, you know, like 3 or 4 doors away or just across the street.
So what are your memories of things you like to do with your neighbors?
Well, what we did, we had enough kids in the neighborhood that we had a ball team, and we'd play ball every day.
Every day?
Yeah. My activities was more on the boy side of the world.
Okay.
I didn't play with dolls. The only doll I had was a dog, a little dog Dad got me when I was about 6 years old, and I'd dress her up and put her in a doll bed, and she'd stay there until I'd come back and get her up. Poor dog. And I wasn't active in the sports in school.
You were or not?
Well, not. No, not.
Well, when you went to high school, then what activities did you participate in?
Well, I did play basketball, but not much, because as soon as I was out of school, I was at work. I babysit for smaller kids and take care of them and a clean house. And I'd go from school to that kind of work every evening, and then on the weekend too. So I never had time for playing. I was always had a job of some kind.
How old were you when you began that, do you think?
Well, I would have been a freshman in high school.
In high school? Okay. Well, let's talk about then your the big family, and you moved into town. What are some of the things you remember about the family doing together? Did you play together or go places together?
No.
No.
Never went any place.
No. Okay. Okay. Did you have hobbies?
Not much.
Okay. Okay. Then after high school, what? What happened to you?
I got a job.
Doing what?
Well, I still mostly was connected in family work.
So you worked in households. Okay. Okay. Did you marry?
Oh, yes.
Well, tell me about that. How did you meet your husband?
Well, as near as I remember it, that's been almost 60 years ago or more. I walked to school, and I walked up 6th Street, 5th or 6th Street, going out to high school. And the old Kroger store was there on 6th Street. And I finally realized that every day that I went by there, this particular boy was standing out at the back door smoking a cigarette. Every time. And that's how we met. Just casual mix that way. And we got married, and we were married. We had one girl.
One girl.
One girl. And then in the last year, we had a boy. I had a boy and a girl by this first Murphy. And we were married, I think about 5 years, and he died. He had congestive heart failure. So then I was single for a while and married again. I was married. The first man I was married to for several years when he died. Then I married again, and had, I had the boy and the girl by the Murphy. Then he took sick and died.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I was going to stay single for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed single for 10 years. And finally decided I could use somebody to help me out with two kids or so. So I remarried. And we were married a few years, and he died. So then that's the time. After that, then I stayed single for quite a while, because by that time I had 4 kids.
So you had 2 more children with that husband.
Mm-hmm. So I just still did housework for people, because everybody needed somebody. They always have to have somebody take care of their house while they're out to work. And then after 10 years, I got married again. And with that husband, he had 2 kids of his own, so I had 2 stepchildren, and give me 6 kids. And I worked out in public then. I'd work in the grocery stores, or any store that could use help that way. So I was always busy, and I lived in the house with my mother at the time. So it was an active life, but nothing exciting.
Well, I'll tell you what, that sounds funny. You grew up in a house full of children, and then you had a house full of children on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let me ask you just some general questions. As you think back over your whole life, was there a person or an event that had a major influence in your life? Is there a person you particularly remember? An event you particularly remember?
Well, most of my going time was to church, and I raised children in church. So I can't.
Nothing particularly stands out in your mind?
No.
Okay, well, let me ask another general question. Think about history, all the things that have happened during your lifetime. What historical events most stand out in your mind?
The towers. Because I was on vacation out in South Carolina, and this son that was here now was up in northern part. He was trying to get back to where I was when this happened, and I was out with my daughter-in-law. We were taking a walk that morning. We got back to her house, and her daughter came out and said, "Oh, Mom, get in here quick."
Oh, boy. So you had to see that all on TV then. But your son, did your son did get together with you? Well, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. Well, let me ask you something else. As you think about all the things that have been invented all the time in your lifetime, what modern conveniences most stand out in your mind?
The computer.
Okay. Well, let me ask you one other question, Catherine. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. But if you were talking to somebody who wasn't from around here, and you were to describe Marshall and tell them why you lived here, how would you describe Marshall? What would you say about it?
Well, it was a quiet little town, more quiet than it is now. And everybody knew everybody, more or less. And so many of the families I find now are still connected some way or other. You know, just like your name Miller.
Right, right.
There was many of those, and I went to school. A lot of the boys that I went to school with and graduated with turned out to be lawyers. One of them had been my lawyer for years until he retired.
So people tend to stay in Marshall, you say?
Yeah, they did. You know, it wasn't a tight group. They were scattered. It was just a comfortable place to live in.
Okay. Well, Catherine, I appreciate your coming in and speaking with me this afternoon, and I think you'll be